So welcome. This is the first day of CS6320 Computer Vision. And this quarter it is being offered as a hybrid online class. And so today is really to orient you to what the class is about and what the expectations are and how we'll communicate so you feel really comfortable taking the class. My name is Professor Lynn Rue, and this is the agenda, what we're going to go through. We actually just did, or you greeted each other. We did that off camera, but I'll introduce myself a little bit in a moment. I have some URLs that I'm going to give you today. That's the only thing I'm going to give you. As part of that, the first URL is our website, and we're going to go over that, talk about the materials there. All the exercises, projects, the work that we'll be doing is posted on the URL as well as lecture material. We'll go over Blackboard and how we're going to be using it. Blackboard is our course management system on campus. And as particular, we're going to talk about the 3 deliverables besides our single exam, which will be during our final week. And we're going to discuss post-use, something called post-use exercises and projects. So to introduce myself to you, I'm going to skip over for a moment and go to our website, which I'll be giving you the URL in a minute. There's a little link here called Instructor. This is my name, of course, my email address, my phone, the room, my office room, and a little bit of background about myself, and I'll just talk to that. So I have a PhD in electrical computer engineering, so something in common with one of the students we met prior to the recording. And I'm from Purdue University, which is one of the largest graduating engineering schools in the world. In fact, when I graduated more engineers than any school in the world. I don't know if they still hold that title. So it's a great place to go because they have every kind of engineering you can think of, probably things you've never thought of. A lot of astronauts, right? Buzz, right? Not Buzz Lightyear, but Buzz Aldrin, right? And many others came from there. Silicon Valley was actually interestingly started out of Purdue. Did any of you know that? Oddly, because you've heard of Andy Grove. Any of you heard of Andy Grove? Who's heard of Andy Grove? Who is Andy Grove?
He's one of the founders of Intel.
That's right. And there's actually 7 founders. They all came from Purdue. And Intel is, well, maybe arguably one of the founders of Silicon Valley. So there's actually a pretty big presence in Silicon Valley of Purdue engineers, which is interesting to know. So it's a great university. I really like it. Okay, so I have some industrial experience also. I worked primarily for IBM, but in a previous life, I used to do chip design. And I worked for Intel, and I worked for Hughes Research and HP for a little bit doing that. But when I was at IBM, and when I did I kind of switched between my bachelor's and my PhD from the hardware into software, computer science. And my PhD was in computer vision. Okay, so this is the area that is, I guess, near and dear to me and is one of the ongoing research areas that I work in. I've taught also kind of, I should update the number there, which tells you how old I'm getting. I've taught also a lot of internet classes here and have done so really since kind of the start of the web explosion. All right. Okay, so what else about me? A little bit about my research. Right now, I run a very small lab. I have 2 graduate students, and they're going to graduate this year. They're working on a system called Blind Bike, and it is a system to help low vision people bike. It's a much harder problem than doing self-driving cars. We can talk about that later, but basically because of the instability of the bike wheels can turn and you can see angles where you're only looking at asphalt when you're turning, the instability of the front wheel. It's a very challenging problem. Also, a lot of the self-driving cars are working on highways and those kinds of areas where lanes are clearly marked. When you're biking, that's really not the case. It's much more challenging. because you're usually running right alongside of parked cars, and so it's a very hard problem to solve, and we're going to solve parts of it. Okay? So the system is not going to work perfectly by any means. It's not going to be ready for deployability, but it's a first step. And I like to work on really challenging problems. Nobody's actually worked on this particular problem, on assistive biking. So I find it exciting, and I'm hoping that you'll catch that same fever in this class. I love this class. It's one of my favorite classes because it's a class where you get to be creative and explore new ideas. And it doesn't matter how well it works. As long as you implement what you say you're going to do, I'm happy. Okay? You propose an idea. If it works 5% of the time, then that's the truth of it. And it's a step forward, right? So computer vision, as one of our students said a little earlier, is a space where there's a lot of exploration to be made and a lot of progress to be made. And that's great. It's not boring. And you can choose ideas as wide as your imagination will allow you. Right? So in that sense, compared to, shall I say it, I teach web systems, this is a much more exciting class, just by nature of its field and what you can do. So hopefully you'll really enjoy it. It's a very human-oriented topic, which I also enjoy. It was one of the reasons why in grad school I decided to make that change. I got tired of working on machines and thought, God, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And so I worked on things for medical imaging. I worked on things for unexploded ordnances, finding bombs underground. So I've tried to do humanistic projects. I've worked on a disaster relief system with the Red Cross. So I've worked on lots of different ideas that will involve media processing. I also work with different kinds of data, not just computer vision. So the techniques that you learn here will translate to other fields. So if you go and look at who Google is hiring to do their recommendation systems, they can be people in computer vision, and are. I shouldn't say can, they are. I've shared with some of you who've had me before, my husband was a VP. He was at Google, he's at Yahoo, he runs advertising, which is like recommendation systems, and so I know this intimately. His background was in image processing for satellite image processing. So the key there is understanding, right? Understanding of data. It doesn't matter what you do, whether it's speech, whether it's understanding social data for advertising, whether it's understanding imagery for driving a car, okay? Or exploring space. It doesn't really matter. Those ideas can translate. But I will say I think imagery is one of the more challenging fields out of all of those that I mentioned by its nature. Okay, so URLs. These are the two URLs, and I'm going to just kind of highlight that in a different color if I can. Let's see, I'm not sure because I think the links are there for our camera. Let's try to break our link. There we go. Okay, so these are the two URLs that I'm going to give you. This is the only thing I'm physically going to give you. The first one is the URL to our website. You saw it a moment ago, and we'll be going back. And then the second one is the URL to our Blackboard system on campus. So if you need to write these down, I'd like you to pause the video at this time. No. And that would be great. Okay. Okay, so we're going to continue on now. And we are going to cancel, made that mistake, go to our website. So if you type in or click on the first URL, this is what you're going to go to. And for the purpose of the video, I'm going to kind of zoom in and out. This is what it looks like. You can see the links across the top, and I'm going to go through the website and give you a tour. Some of you have had me in class before, so this is going to feel very familiar to you. I tend to keep my websites super simple, with not a lot of design. For people who have low vision and people who have disabilities, they can augment it to their design very easily. Okay? All right, so we've already seen the first link, which is the instructor link, which shows how to reach me. I'm going to go next to the syllabus. Okay? So the syllabus, I'll encourage those who are watching to go and pause the video and take a look at that. Yes?
I think I'm-
Oh, I have the wrong syllabus. What in the world just
I think
happened?
you're in the wrong class.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for telling me that. That is crazy. They all look the same. There's the proof of it. But the images are different. Okay, on the front. Yeah, that is crazy. Nobody stopped me. Thank you. This is the correct one. Okay, and that is my dog, or one of my dogs, and that's one of my kids who is in the right-hand side. I'll have to tell you stories if you come to my office. There's the teaser to come about a paper I wrote with a bunch of undergraduates with my dog and a robot. That dog. That's the teaser to come and see. Okay, anyways, moving on. So the instructor, that's me. So that makes a little more sense, the description, right? One of our areas of research is computer vision. Okay, and I have to go to the syllabus now. All right, we have a series of books. One of them is actually online, which is the one I'm talking about in this light blue that you don't have to purchase. The other one, the top one, is available at the bookstore, but you can also get it online. The last one, you notice, is actually not at the bookstore, and you have a choice. And the choice that you make is going to depend on what final project you're going to do. You have a choice, as we'll see later, for a final project of either doing a mobile app or doing a Connect-based project. So depending on that, I'm going to make some suggestions as to the book that you want to do. There's some generic choices here. It's always possible to have none as a choice. And I've given you some suggestions in orange that I'll ask you to read through to decide to give you tips as to why you might want this book, depending on your personality. Now, what is not in here actually is a good Connect book. There's not that many, but for those of you who are doing that, I'll make those suggestions to you directly. It is also possible to find on the Safari Index on the library, possibly some of these books it changes, as well as some trade books that might be useful for you. Okay. All right. Oh, here is a Connect book. I lied, and an Android book. Okay, but we can look to see what's available on Safari. I'll take you there very quickly. By the way, how many of you, as a show of hands, have been to Safari before? So a little over half. Okay, so this is our library website. And you're going to need to use our library website in this class because one of the things you're going to do in this class is research. Remember I said to you I don't care how well your system works because you're going to propose an idea and just follow through on implementing the idea, and if it doesn't work, that's fine. I don't care. That's publishable, in fact, potentially, if it's something new that hasn't been tried before. To get that kind of information, what's been published in computer vision, there are two databases, ACM, and I'll send an email about that later, and IEEE. So those are the two large organizations, here's IEEE, that are involved in computer science. ACM, anyone knows what that stands for? No one? Try it. What's the C? Okay, Association for Computing Machinery, ACM. IEEE is worse. Institute of
Electronics, electronics engineering.
Electronics, yeah, and electrical engineering, exactly. But oddly, that seems very specific. IEEE is a much older organization, so the name is a little archaic, but it encompasses all of computer science and many fields of engineering, computer engineering and electrical engineering, also industrial engineering and some other fields too. So they publish journals and magazines. You can come in these, you can use it off campus with your NetID, and you simply can search. For example, I'll search on self-driving cars. Of course, we have to wait for the speed of the internet. That's a joke, okay? Wow, right? I guess I shouldn't feel so bad about my speed at home. Whew. Oh my goodness. It's usually not this slow. It's waiting. All right. I really did want to show you some results. Maybe IEEE is having some trouble. Let's try ACM. It doesn't usually go that slow. Okay, so here's its search box. Self-driving cars. Here we go. Improving improving blah, 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 blah on the example of a self-driving miniature car. Okay, improving scenario selection. That was you. You wanted to drive in your backyard, right? For simulations. Okay, whatever. Cyber physical systems. Analysis and case study of a self-driving car. So you can come in, you can click on that and read more details about the abstract, but one of the things you'll see is it actually has the paper in there, right? So if you wanted to do some research on self-driving cars or something, you can read it. Now, a lot of math, don't get scared, right? Don't get too bored. You know, you can get through it, or at least you can maybe get the gist of it, and I can help you, right? I can help you understand the global ideas of the paper, which is maybe what you, in essence, want. And I can also try to help find maybe simpler papers that are more accessible for you. But I think you have probably a good idea of gauging that too. The Safari website that I mentioned, the Safari index, I should say, so I'm going to go to the S, this is alphabetized, is one of the online books. And so, for example, let's see if they have anything on Connect. And here we have My Xbox One, Understanding the Connect setup is a chapter in this book. Connect here's Andrino with Connect. So they don't have any really good Connect books. Another package that you're going to use if you're doing for the last project is called OpenCV, but here we've got a bunch of books. Connect, there's Connect books out there, but it looks like it's just on the Safari. Safari doesn't have all the books available in the world. That'd be crazy, you guys would never be buying a book, right? And it changes, so there's no guarantee that this book that you're using is gonna stay for the rest of the quarter. They don't change rapidly, but it could happen that it changes for you. All right, so that's another resource for books that's not bad, but again, it only has a selection. So my office hours I'm going to do a little differently this quarter. I usually have it in my office, but I'm actually have permission to use this room. And the idea there is I can have more students in here more comfortably. Our rooms are a bit small over in the SF building, so if people want to kind of work collaboratively during office hours, I have it until 1 o'clock, then I'm kicked out between 11:50 and 1 o'clock, okay? And so that's all posted here. Now, the agreement that I made in doing that is, it's been reserved for me, but if there's a strong need for this room, like someone needs to do a test or something that day, I'll have to move. I'll either put a note or I'll email you if I have enough notice. Right? I'm not going to bother emailing if they just come in and say we have to leave. But I should know. Susan, who does all the scheduling for the rooms, has, told me she should be able to give me some notice, but you never know. So that's the only caveat to that, but hopefully it'll be useful. It's an experiment, trying it inside of the classroom. If there's something that we need to talk about in private, then you can either let me know ahead of time, or what will happen is I'll just kick everyone out, which I have no problem doing, and then you and I can talk, okay? I also still have access to my office, which is right next door. They haven't re-signed it. If that stays the same, we can also go over there temporarily, but I can't guarantee, because I don't own that office anymore, if that'll stay for the entire quarter, but that's another option. Okay. So outcomes, we're going to understand the broad area of computer vision. We'll talk about current computer vision systems. You're going to learn how to do some research, and that you're going to make a proposal, okay? And I'll help you, I'll guide you through that process. You're going to obviously do some programming. As one of our students that we met before the tape said, this is a hands-on course. Boring not to be, right? I can't stand teaching theory courses. I'll do it when I have to, but I don't like it. Do you guys like taking theory courses? I mean, they're easier in some ways, but I just think they're quite boring. I like to do things, and I like to move rapidly. I don't work on the same research project because I get bored. I kind of feel like if I've done it once, then I've done it, right? Where you'll find people in computer vision, they'll work on the same problem for like 20 years. It's not me. I can't do that, so. All right, skills. So the requirement here includes 3240 and OOP, so I'm assuming you know some object-oriented programming language coming in, and I'm hoping it's Java, that you didn't take it somewhere else from another university as an undergraduate. If you need help in Java, I can help you with that, but that's something you'll need to come with me to office hours. Because we're going to be programming in Java, and those of you who do Connect, I'm going to strongly encourage to do in C#, not in Java. There is a open source package in Java that doesn't work very well. It's okay, it's kind of not great. The main language for programming Connect is C#. It's a proprietary product. This is Microsoft, and so they control that. Those of you who are going to be doing the other project, mobile, will be doing Android. Unless you convince me you want to do iOS, then you'll be doing Swift. But I'll be supporting the Android in the class in terms of materials, okay? And that's Java-based. C# is not hard to learn. And like I did a thesis in a home system for people who fell down. Senior citizens would monitor, and if they fell down, it would detect when they fell down, and then it would call an emergency number, and it used voice recognition system. So that's a cyber-physical system, so I know how to program and Connect, and we did C#. And I did like kind of compare all those before we started that project, and I'm just telling you, I think the way to go is C#. But if you're really adamant for doing Java, then it's possible. One of the things you'll be doing, because it is online, is YouTube video submissions. That's really important to know how to do. The syllabus here, for lack of a better place to put it, talks about how to do that from a mobile phone, okay, and how to submit it. I will ask you to be putting it in what's called unlisted mode, so that we don't have to invite each other to view it. If it's in private mode, that just becomes, oddly, something that we can't handle. I've tried to do private mode, and it's like, I didn't get the email, so I'm like, okay, unlisted mode, what it means is if you give the URL to someone, they can access it, but it's not searchable on YouTube, okay? So we're gonna do that mode. All right, grading, there's the formula that's listed here on the syllabus. You can definitely please read that. I usually use it unless there's something that goes wrong in the class that very unexpectedly, which never has happened. So 70% projects. This kind of reflects the fact that in my classes, I just like you to do things and learn skills that are marketable so you can go have your career goals, right? And I don't find testing so important, but I'm forced to test you. So we have one exam, which is worth 20%. And class participation is 10%. And we'll do that in a couple different ways that is completely objective, which means through exercises and something that we'll talk about, as you saw in the agenda, called post-use. Okay, so I'll ask you to please read the rest of this. The two things that I'll point out is we have a late policy. I don't accept late work unless you have a valid excuse like a documented illness. So you'll have to talk to me about that. If you're going to travel or something, everything is already posted with all the due dates of everything for the entire course. My suggestion is to work ahead so you can enjoy your trip, and definitely you can submit it ahead of time. Okay, accommodations, this is the other thing that I want to point out in the syllabus, is that if you are disabled in any way, they do not let me know that. It's your choice to educate me, and I would strongly encourage you to do that. I want you to help you as much as I can, but I will be asking you to go through the Student Disability Resource Center. I'm required to ask you to do that, and they will assist you. You can get readers, you can get help with note-taking, there's lots of different things, more assistance on exams, things like that. but of course, you have to go through that process. And if the number is listed here, but if you need more contact, let me know. Okay, so this is just a list of some of the topics, but we'll see some of those on the actual outline. And this is discussing Blackboard, which I'll just do a visit of in a moment. Okay, so this is the syllabus. Please take a look at that. The 3 remaining links on the top navigation bar are links, and you can imagine they are just that, a set of links that are hopefully organized by some sensical meaning, like here's OpenCV, right? Okay. Here we have Connect for C#. There's some other libraries that I'm talking about. Here's some software IDEs, installation tips, and so on. Java API, I mentioned we'll be using Java. And here's conference lists, here's some various lectures that might be useful, and so on. Projects we'll get to in a moment. Let's look at the outline. Okay, so the outline, and I'm going to zoom down and then zoom up, is organized like a table. And I'm going to just point and read to them what it says since I zoomed out. This top one says week, so this tells you the week in which you're going to go over that material, the intended week. This is a module column. It gives both a number, here's 1, here's 2, they're generally in sequence, along with a title. So this is on our visual system, right? The human visual system, how it works. Number 2. Number 3rd column, it says assignment or project. It means kind of when we're starting that project, right? When we can start thinking about that project. There's a separate link, as I said, on projects, and that's where you would go to see them all together. And then the last one is materials. And materials include reading assignments, okay? And also class lectures. Every week I will be sending you an email. You've already gotten an email, hopefully, that's also posted on Blackboard. And I'm going to skip over there. This was the second URL that I gave you. If you're enrolled as a student, unless you're a brand new student, I'm assuming you all know how to use Blackboard. Is there anyone who doesn't here? If you're watching this as a video and that's the case, you can come in and see me. So I'm going to go over this somewhat quickly. I have a lot of classes here, huh? Okay, you will have on your Blackboard, it'll look a little different after you log in, but there will be our 6825 class listed. So you'll click on that, and you can see the very first thing that comes up is the announcement. So I've sent out announcements that I also will email. So like, for example, information about our mandatory class. The other thing I gave you was a week 1 to-do list. So here's the week 1. And so I'm going to read this, but this is what you'll be getting remotely. And then we're going to switch back to the outline to see what we're talking about. So this is the first thing. If you're not in today's class, hopefully you're going to be watching that lecture that we're going to get out hopefully soon for the video we're watching now. Get the book, familiarize yourself with our website. That's what we're in part doing today. Okay. The other thing I've asked you to do is to go to eclipse.org and install Eclipse, set up Eclipse for Java. Eclipse is an IDE. If you've used, like, for example, what IDEs have you used? Say for the people, NetBeans maybe, right? Visual Studio, Microsoft Visual Studio, not for Java, but for other languages, right? Perfect. Okay, so we're going to use Eclipse. Eclipse is one of the most popular open standard IDEs out there. It's used a lot in industry, has a lot of support for different frameworks that exist, so it's a great IDE, and it's free, so that's terrific. Later, depending on your choice, we'll either be installing Android Studio. This is just a note to tell you that we don't have to do it this week. But Android Studio or Microsoft Visual Studio for C++. Okay? So the next thing I ask you to do is go through the materials for week 1 outline. So let's go back. What does that mean? We're in our outline page, week 1. So this is week 1, this is week 1. So these 2 modules you have to go through. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? Okay, so that means you'll be doing reading and going through the online materials. There's also a link to a project, but let's go back before we continue going down this outline to our week 1 to-dos. So that's great. And then I even tell you and remind you in our weekly to-do list what you should maybe be doing. So we're going to talk about project 1, but project 1 proposal is due on April 19th. That's actually a ways away, right? It's not like this week or even next week, but I'm trying to tell you this is going to be one of the first things we're doing, and you're going to be doing some reading for that, so, or looking at some stuff, so you're going to be choosing a topic. We're going to talk about what that means, but it's a research tutorial. Some of you have had classes from me before, know exactly what that's about, but we'll see it today. Another thing we're going to talk about is something called post-use. Post-use. So every week I'm going to ask you to, on the Blackboard discussion board, make a posting of a question and an answer that is related to that week's materials. I may use them in my exam at the end of the quarter. And again, this is just a reminder, some of these things turn off. You're not going to be able to, after the due date, submit the post-due. So we have that late policy for everything. But I'm just kind of early on trying to remind you in orange. Okay, remember, because we're starting, don't forget the date. So let's take a look. Let's go back to the outline. And you'll notice there's something here in orange. And I'm going to zoom in for the camera and for you. It's in our second module. And it says post due for the week, due 11 p.m. April 3rd. That's this Sunday. Okay? And that's important because it's going to turn off. Okay? You won't be able to submit after that. You can submit tomorrow if you want, just as long as it's before. You don't have to wait till 11 p.m. Just that's the last time that you can do it. Now, you'll notice that for a week I'll have one post due in one of the modules. And I generally place it where I think that there might be some more interesting material to ask questions about. Like, I think the first one where I'm talking about Unix and stuff like that is really not very interesting. Okay, the introduction lecture maybe, okay? But I think, human abilities, that's pretty cool, right? Understanding how your eyes work, how your vision system works is interesting. So maybe you want to grab a post-due from there. But it doesn't matter. Anywhere in week 1, but I'll ask you for not stupid questions, right? Like, what is the name of the second link on her website? That would be something, because this is worth points, right? Where it comes is in participation points. So be serious about doing it and thoughtful. Okay, back to our weekly to-dos. So one of the things before you leave I'm going to ask you to do is to sign up, but we'll do it after the camera is done, on a spreadsheet that we're going to use